My name is Margaret Chen. I'm 65 years old, and I never imagined my retirement would begin like this. I'd spent 38 years as a high school mathematics teacher, planning a quiet life of gardening and book clubs. Then on a cold February morning in 2012, everything changed. The doorbell rang at 7 a.m. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, I saw my son Daniel standing there with a small boy beside him. The child couldn't have been more than 6 years old, wearing a too large jacket and clutching a stuffed elephant. I opened the door. Daniel? What's going on? My son looked exhausted. His eyes were red, his clothes wrinkled like he'd been wearing them for days. Mom, this is Lucas. He's your grandson. The words didn't make sense. I stared at the little boy. He had Daniel's dark hair and my late husband's brown eyes. He wasn't looking at me. Instead, he was staring at the porch light, completely focused on how it reflected off the glass door. I don't understand, I said. His mother and we were together 5 years ago. She never told me about him. Last week, she showed up at my apartment and said she couldn't do it anymore. She left him with me and disappeared. Daniel's voice cracked. Mom, I got deployed. I leave for Afghanistan in 3 days. I have no one else. My heart stopped. Deployed? Daniel, you can't just. Please. He looked desperate. It's only 18 months. When I get back, I'll figure everything out. Please, Mom. He has nowhere else to go. I looked down at Lucas. He was rocking slightly, heel to toe, still staring at that light. Something about the way he moved, the intensity of his focus, reminded me of Tommy Kim, a student I'd had 15 years ago. Tommy had been autistic, brilliant at patterns and numbers, struggling with everything else. Does he talk? I asked quietly. Sometimes. Not much. The mother said he's autistic, but there's no official diagnosis, no medical records, nothing. She just left a bag of his clothes and walked away. The child still hadn't acknowledged us. He hummed a soft, rhythmic sound under his breath. 3 days. I said, I'm sorry, Mom. I know this isn't fair. Fair. Nothing about this was fair. Not to me, not to Daniel, and certainly not to this little boy who'd been abandoned twice in 1 week. But looking at Lucas, at his small frame and his intense concentration on something only he could see, I knew what my answer had to be. Bring him inside, I said. Daniel's relief was visible. He picked up a single backpack from the porch. Was that really all Lucas had? And guided the boy into my house. Lucas walked in slowly, his eyes darting around, taking in every detail. He stopped in the living room, right in the center of the rug, and stood completely still. Lucas, Daniel said gently, this is your grandmother. You're going to stay with her for a while. The boy didn't respond, didn't look at either of us, just stood there humming. We spent those 3 days in a blur. Daniel tried to tell me everything he knew, which wasn't much. Lucas liked routine. He ate only certain foods. Loud noises upset him. He didn't like to be touched without warning. He could read incredibly well for a 6-year-old, but rarely spoke. He lined things up. Toys, books, shoes, anything he could find, organizing them by size or color in patterns Daniel couldn't explain. I tried to get him into therapy, Daniel said on his last night. But without medical records or legal custody paperwork, no one would see him. You'll need to figure that out. How? I asked. I'm not his legal guardian. His mother abandoned him, and you're deploying. What am I supposed to tell doctors and schools? Daniel looked away. I don't know, Mom. I really don't know. The morning he left for deployment, Daniel knelt in front of Lucas. Hey, buddy. I have to go away for work. You're going to stay with Grandma. She's going to take good care of you. Lucas stared at the wall behind Daniel's head. No response. Daniel hugged him anyway. Lucas went rigid but didn't pull away. When Daniel stood up, I saw tears in his eyes. I'll video call when I can, he said to me. I'm so sorry. Then he was gone, and I was alone with a 6-year-old boy I'd met 3 days ago. Lucas stood in the exact spot where Daniel had left him. He didn't cry, didn't call out, didn't react at all. He just started rocking again, that same heel-to-toe motion, humming under his breath. I sat down on the couch, suddenly aware of how quiet my house was. For 12 years, since my husband died, I'd lived alone. I'd gotten used to the silence, the predictability, the control over every aspect of my day. Now there was a child in my living room, a child who didn't speak, didn't make eye contact, who existed in a world I didn't understand. "Are you hungry, Lucas?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Would you like to see your room?" Nothing. I stood up slowly, walked to where he was standing. He stiffened slightly but didn't move away. "It's okay," I said softly. "We're going to figure this out together." He stopped humming for just a moment. His eyes flickered toward me, then away. It was the first time he'd acknowledged my presence at all. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to Lucas hum in the guest room. That same sound, over and over, like a heartbeat. I thought about my quiet retirement, my carefully planned days. I thought about Daniel somewhere over the Pacific, flying toward a war zone. I thought about Lucas's mother, whoever she was, walking away from her own child. And I thought about what my husband would have said if he were still here. Robert always believed every student deserved a chance, no matter how different they were. "Well, Robert," I whispered to the darkness, "I guess we've got ourselves a grandson to raise." The humming continued through the wall. Steady, constant, real. And somehow in that moment, I knew my life would never be the same. The first week with Lucas taught me how little I actually knew about children, especially children like him. I'd taught teenagers for nearly 4 decades, but a 6-year-old autistic boy was completely different territory. Monday morning, I made him breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Normal breakfast foods. Lucas took one look at the plate and walked away. He went to the corner of the living room, sat down facing the wall, and started rocking. "Lucas, you need to eat something," I said. He didn't respond. Just rocked and hummed. I tried again at lunch. Made a sandwich, cut it into triangles. He wouldn't touch it. By dinner, I was desperate. I opened the pantry and started pulling things out. "What do you eat?" "Lucas, please. You have to show me something you'll eat." He appeared in the doorway, silent as always. His eyes scanned the counter where I'd laid out crackers, cereal, fruit, bread, peanut butter. He reached past everything and picked up a box of plain Cheerios. Carried it to the table. Sat down. I poured them into a bowl. He pushed the bowl away. I tried putting them on a plate. He pushed that away too. Finally, I just poured some directly onto the table. He ate them one at a time, arranging them in a circle first, then eating them in a specific pattern only he understood. It took me 3 more days to figure out he wanted exactly 42 Cheerios, counted out, placed directly on the clean table surface. Not 41. Not 43. Exactly 42. The bathroom was another battle. He screamed when I tried to help him brush his teeth. Not crying, just screaming, like I was hurting him. I stepped back immediately, hands up. Okay, you can do it yourself." He stopped screaming but stood there shaking. I put the toothbrush on the counter and left the room. 5 minutes later, he came out teeth brushed, face washed. He could do it himself. He just couldn't handle me being there. Sleep was impossible. Every night Lucas hummed, sometimes for hours. I'd lie in bed listening to that constant sound through the wall, worried something was wrong. On the 4th night, I went to check on him. His room was dark except for the night light. He was sitting up in bed, rocking, humming, staring at nothing. "Lucas? Are you okay?" He didn't answer, but the humming got quieter. I stood in the doorway, uncertain. Should I go in? Should I leave? Every parenting instinct I thought I had was useless here. "I'm right down the hall if you need me," I said finally. The humming continued. I went back to bed. By the end of the first week, I was exhausted. I called Daniel's number, knowing he probably couldn't answer, but needing to try anyway. Voicemail. "Daniel, I don't know what I'm doing. Lucas won't talk to me. He barely eats. I don't know if I'm helping or making things worse. Please call when you can." He didn't call. Couldn't call. He was somewhere in a war zone. And I was here alone, trying to understand a child who lived in a different world. The second week, I started paying attention differently. Not trying to make Lucas do what I wanted, but watching what he did naturally. He lined up his toy cars every morning. arranging them by color in a gradient so subtle I had to squint to see the pattern. He organized the books on my shelf by height, then by color, then by the number of words in the title. He counted everything. Steps from his room to the kitchen, 23. Tiles on the bathroom floor, 48. Windows in the house, 12. I found him in my office one afternoon, looking at my old gradebooks from years of teaching. Pages and pages of numbers and names. He was running his finger down the columns, completely absorbed. "Do you like numbers?" I asked quietly. He didn't look up, but he nodded. Once. Quick. It was the first time he'd responded to a direct question. I pulled out more gradebooks, old attendance sheets, anything with numbers and patterns. He studied them for hours. That evening, he ate his Cheerios without me having to figure out what he wanted. He'd found something that made sense to him, and it calmed something inside him. The third week, I took him to a pediatrician. Dr. Sarah Martinez had been recommended by a friend. She specialized in developmental issues. In her office, Lucas sat perfectly still while she examined him, not making eye contact but cooperating. "Mrs. Chen, has Lucas been formally diagnosed?" she asked. "I don't have any medical records. His mother left nothing." Dr. Martinez looked at Lucas carefully. "He shows classic signs of autism spectrum disorder. The stemming behaviors, the lack of eye contact, the need for routine. He needs a full evaluation, speech therapy, occupational therapy, behavioral support." My chest tightened. How do I arrange that? I'm not his legal guardian. I don't even have custody paperwork. "You're his grandmother, and you're caring for him. That's enough to start. I can refer you to early intervention services. They'll help." She gave me a stack of forms and phone numbers. That night, I sat at my kitchen table filling out paperwork, trying to explain a situation I barely understood myself. Mother's whereabouts, unknown. Father's status, deployed military. Legal custody, informal. It all looked wrong on paper, but it was the truth. The therapy assessments started in March. Speech therapist, occupational therapist, behavioral specialist. Lucas went through test after test. He wouldn't speak to any of them, but he'd complete their tasks. Puzzles, patterns, sorting exercises. He'd do them all perfectly, methodically, while the therapists wrote notes. "He's very bright," the speech therapist told me. "His receptive language is excellent. He understands everything. He just chooses not to speak most of the time." "Why?" I asked. "It's hard for him. Speaking requires social interaction, interpreting facial expressions, understanding context. For autistic children, that's exhausting. He'll talk when he feels safe enough." Safe enough. The word stayed with me. How long would it take for him to feel safe in a world that had abandoned him twice? April brought routine. I learned Lucas needed everything to happen the same way, every day. Wake up at 7. 42 Cheerios for breakfast. Therapy at 9 on Mondays and Wednesdays. Library on Fridays. Same route every time. Same parking spot. Same table. If anything changed, he'd shut down completely. Stop moving. Stop responding. Just rock and hum until I figured out what went wrong and fixed it. One Friday at the library, I checked out books about autism. Lucas sat beside me, reading a picture book about trains. He'd read it 4 times already, but he wanted it again. Always the same book. That night, I read the autism books after he went to bed. Learned about sensory processing issues, why certain sounds or textures could be overwhelming. Learned about executive functioning, why transitions were so hard. Learned that what looked like stubbornness was actually his brain working differently, processing the world through patterns and systems instead of social cues. I learned that everything I'd been doing wrong, pushing him to make eye contact, trying to hug him, changing routines, was making things harder. The next morning, I tried something different. I made his breakfast, counted out 42 Cheerios, put them on the table. Didn't ask him questions. Didn't try to make him look at me. Just let him eat in peace. When he finished, he got up, walked to where I was sitting, and placed his empty cup in my hand. His yellow plastic cup. He'd been using the same one since the first day. He didn't say anything. Didn't look at me. Just gave me the cup and walked away. But it felt like communication. Like trust. That afternoon, Daniel finally called. His voice crackled through a terrible connection. Mom? Can you hear me? Daniel? Yes, I can hear you. Are you okay? I'm fine. How's Lucas? I looked toward the living room where Lucas was arranging his cars. He's adjusting. We're figuring each other out. Is he talking? Not really. But he's communicating in other ways. Silence on the line. Then, Mom, I don't know when I'll be back. This deployment might extend. My stomach dropped. How long? Maybe 2 years total. I'm so sorry. 2 years. Lucas would be 8 years old. It's okay, I said, surprising myself. We'll be okay. More silence. Thank you, Mom. I mean it. Thank you. After we hung up, I sat there holding the phone. 2 years. This wasn't temporary anymore. This was my life now. Lucas appeared in the doorway, holding his yellow cup. He'd filled it with water himself. He walked over and stood in front of me. Not looking at me, but close. Closer than he'd ever been voluntarily. Lucas. I said softly. He held out the cup, offering it to me. I took it, my throat tight. Thank you, sweetheart. He nodded once, then went back to his cars. It wasn't a hug. It wasn't I love you. But in Lucas's language, it meant something. It meant we were going to be okay. Summer 2012 arrived, and with it came new challenges. Lucas turned 7 in June. I baked a small cake, just the two of us in the kitchen. He didn't blow out the candles. The fire bothered him, so I did it for him. He ate exactly one piece, but only after I cut it into perfect squares. Happy birthday, Lucas, I said. He didn't respond, but he ate every bite of his cake. That felt like a gift in itself. July brought progress I hadn't expected. Lucas started speech therapy 3 times a week with a woman named Jennifer Park. She was patient, never pushing him, always letting him move at his own pace. Mrs. Chen, I want to try something, she said after the 4th session. Lucas responds well to visual schedules and written communication. What if we give him a notebook? Let him write instead of speak when he needs to. I bought him a small notebook with blue lines. He carried it everywhere. At first, he just drew in it circles, lines, patterns that looked like codes. Then one morning at breakfast, he wrote a single word. Milk. I stared at it. You want milk? He nodded. My hands shook as I poured him milk. He'd communicated a need. Directly. Clearly. Thank you for telling me, I said. He wrote again, welcome. I had to leave the room so he wouldn't see me cry. After 7 months of silence, 2 words in a notebook felt like a miracle. The notebook became his voice. Short words at first. Cold. Tired. Outside. Then phrases. Too loud. Need break. More Cheerios. He was talking to me, just not with his mouth. By August, he was writing full sentences. The birds in the backyard come at 6:47 every morning. Always 3 blue jays first, then 4 sparrows. I looked out the window the next morning. Sure enough, 3 blue jays arrived at exactly 6:47, followed by 4 sparrows. He'd been tracking them, noting the pattern. His brain saw things mine never would. School became my next worry. Lucas needed to start 1st grade in September, but regular public school felt impossible. Too much noise, too many people, too much chaos. I researched special education programs, visited 3 different schools, and hated all of them. The last one, Valley Elementary, had a principal named Robert Hayes. He sat across from me in his office, looking at Lucas's evaluation reports. Mrs. Chen, I understand your concerns, he said. But Lucas is academically advanced. His reading is at a 4th grade level. His math comprehension is remarkable. Putting him in a self-contained special education classroom would be holding him back. But he doesn't talk, I said. He can't handle group activities. What regular teacher will know how to support him? Mr. Hayes leaned forward. What if we try an inclusion model? He's in a regular 1st grade classroom but with support. A classroom aide, sensory breaks when needed, his notebook for communication. We adapt to him, not the other way around. I looked at Lucas. He was sitting quietly, reading the spines of books on the principal's shelf, organizing them by color in his mind. What do you think? I asked him. He wrote in his notebook, "I can try." 3 words that took more courage than I'd ever had to show. September came. His teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, was young but patient. She read all his reports, met with his therapists, learned his signs of distress. She gave him a desk in the corner, away from the window where sunlight created glare. She let him wear noise-canceling headphones during loud activities. She read his notebook every day. The first week was rough. Lucas came home exhausted, went straight to his room, and rocked for an hour. The second week was slightly better. By the third week he started showing me his schoolwork. Perfect papers, every answer correct, handwriting careful and precise. "How's school?" I'd ask. He'd write, "Okay. Learning about addition. I already know it." Of course he did. He'd been doing math in his head for months. October brought an unexpected problem. Ms. Rodriguez called me one afternoon. "Mrs. Chen, we need to talk about Lucas's behavior." My heart sank. What happened? He corrected me in front of the class today. I was teaching subtraction, made a small error on the board, and Lucas stood up and pointed it out. Very directly. Was he right? Pause. Yes. But it embarrassed me. I closed my eyes. "Ms. Rodriguez, Lucas doesn't understand that correcting adults can be seen as disrespectful. He just sees something wrong and fixes it. That's how his brain works." I understand, but did he say it meanly? Did he make fun of you? No. He just stated the error and the correct answer. Then he was helping, I said firmly. He wasn't being defiant. He was being honest. She agreed to be more understanding, but I could hear the frustration in her voice. It was starting again, the pressure to make Lucas behave normally, instead of accepting who he was. That night, I talked to Lucas while he ate dinner. "Your teacher called. She said you corrected her today." He nodded, wrote. "She wrote 14 minus 7 equals 6. It equals 7. You were right. But grown-ups sometimes feel embarrassed when kids correct them. Maybe next time, write it in your notebook and show her privately." He thought about that, then wrote. "Why? If something is wrong, it should be fixed." I had no good answer. He was right. If something was wrong, it should be fixed. But the world didn't work on pure logic. It worked on feelings and egos and social rules that made no sense to him. "Just try," I said gently. "For me." He nodded once. "Okay." November brought Daniel home for 2 weeks. Leave from deployment. He looked older, thinner, tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. Lucas didn't remember him. When Daniel walked in the door, Lucas looked up from his cars, then went back to organizing them. No recognition, no excitement, nothing. "Hey buddy," Daniel said, his voice cracking. "It's Dad." Lucas wrote in his notebook without looking up. "I know." Daniel looked at me, devastated. I shook my head slightly. Give him time. Over those 2 weeks, Daniel tried. He sat with Lucas, watched him organize things, asked questions that Lucas answered in his notebook. Slowly, carefully, Lucas started showing Daniel his patterns, his systems, his way of seeing the world. On Daniel's last day, Lucas handed him a piece of paper. On it, he'd drawn a calendar with Daniel's return date circled in red. Below it, he'd written, "427 days until you come back. I will be 2 years, 4 months, and 13 days older. You will be safe." Daniel read it, and tears ran down his face. "Thank you, Lucas. I'll be safe. I promise." Lucas nodded once, then went back to his room. After Daniel left, I found Lucas sitting on his bed, holding the yellow cup. He was crying silently, tears running down his face, but no sound. I sat beside him. Didn't touch him, just sat close. "It's okay to be sad," I said. He wrote with shaking hands. "I don't want him to die." "He won't. He's coming back." "How do you know?" "I didn't. I couldn't promise that." "I believe it," I said finally. "I believe he'll come home." Lucas leaned against me just slightly. The first time he'd ever initiated physical contact. We sat like that for an hour. Him crying silently, me holding perfectly still. Both of us hoping Daniel would survive 427 more days. That night, I added a note to Lucas's calendar system. Started marking the days until Daniel came home. Because if counting days helped Lucas feel safe, then we'd count every single one. Together. Winter 2013 arrived with snow and new routines. Lucas was 8 now, and his notebook had become an extension of himself. He documented everything: weather patterns, school schedules, grocery lists, even the exact times I turned on lights each evening. "Why do you write all this down?" I asked one evening, watching him fill another page with timestamps and observations. He wrote, "So I remember what's real. Things change, but if I write them down, I have proof they happened." The answer troubled me. An 8-year-old shouldn't worry about proving reality. But I understood. He'd been abandoned by his mother, separated from his father. Documentation gave him control over a world that had proven unpredictable. January brought trouble at school. A new student, Ryan, started teasing Lucas. Nothing physical, just words. "Weirdo. Robot boy. Why don't you ever talk?" Lucas didn't respond, just wrote it all in his notebook with dates and times. Ryan called me weirdo at 10:32 a.m. Ryan said I'm stupid at lunch. Ryan pushed my books off desk at 2:15 p.m. When I saw the entries, my blood boiled. I called Ms. Rodriguez. "I'll talk to Ryan," she said. "But Mrs. Chen, Lucas needs to learn to stand up for himself. He can't just write things down and expect others to solve his problems." "He's 8 years old and autistic," I said, fighting to keep my voice steady. "It's your job to protect him, not teach him to fight his own battles with a bully." She sighed. "I'll handle it." But it continued. Ryan was clever, only bothering Lucas when teachers weren't watching. Lucas kept documenting. Page after page of harassment, all precisely recorded. Finally, I requested a meeting with Principal Hayes. I brought Lucas's notebook, showed him the entries. Dates, times, exact quotes, witnesses present. Mr. Hayes read through it, his expression darkening. "This is detailed. Very detailed. Lucas documents everything. It's how he processes the world. Ryan's parents will say it's exaggerated. Kids' memories aren't reliable." I pointed to the notebook. "This isn't memory. This is documentation. Real-time records. Lucas writes things down as they happen." Mr. Hayes called Ryan's parents in. When confronted with weeks of detailed evidence, specific quotes their son had used, exact times and locations, they couldn't deny it. Ryan was suspended for 3 days. Afterward, Mr. Hayes looked at me differently. "That notebook. It's quite remarkable. Most kids couldn't document things that precisely." "Lucas isn't most kids," I said. That night, Lucas asked me a question that changed everything. "Can I scan my notebooks?" "Scan them? Why?" "So they don't get lost or damaged. If I have digital copies, they're always safe." I'd bought a small scanner months ago for my tax documents. "Sure. We can scan them." He spent the entire weekend scanning every page he'd ever written. Then he organized them on my old computer by date, by topic, by category. He created folders within folders, systems within systems. "This is impressive, Lucas," I said, watching him work. He typed on the screen. "Now nothing gets lost." February brought progress. Lucas started speaking occasionally. Not often, just single words when absolutely necessary. "Yes. No. Thank you." His voice was quiet, careful, like each word cost him something. Ms. Rodriguez celebrated it. "He spoke in class today. He said 7 during math." But I knew the truth. Speaking wasn't progress for Lucas. It was exhausting. He preferred his notebook because writing was clearer, easier, more precise. He spoke only when people wouldn't accept written answers. Still, I encouraged it gently. "You have a nice voice," I told him. "I like hearing it." He wrote, "It's hard. Words in my head are clear. When I say them, they come out wrong. They come out fine to me. But people expect more. They want eye contact and tone and facial expressions. It's too much to think about." He was right. We expected so much from a simple conversation. Look at me, smile, use the right inflection, read my face, respond appropriately. For Lucas, it was like solving a complex equation while someone watched impatiently. March brought Daniel's video calls. Every Saturday at 4 p.m., the computer would ring. Lucas would sit perfectly still, watching his father's pixelated face on the screen. "Hey buddy, how's school?" Lucas would hold up his notebook to the camera with written answers. "Still documenting everything?" "Nod. That's my smart kid." The calls were brief, limited by military restrictions. But Lucas counted down to each one, marked them in his calendar, noted exactly how many days remained until the next call, until Daniel came home. April brought an unexpected discovery. I found Lucas at my computer late one night, not just scanning documents but doing something else. The screen showed spreadsheets, formulas, data I didn't understand. "What are you working on?" I asked. He typed quickly. "I'm organizing everything. School records, therapy notes, medical appointments, grocery receipts. Making a database so I can search it." "Why grocery receipts?" "They prove what we bought and when. They're evidence of our life." Evidence. That word again. At 8 years old, he was building an archive of his existence, afraid somehow that without proof, it might disappear. "Lucas, you don't have to prove your life is real. I'm here. I remember." He looked at me for a brief moment. Actual eye contact. Then back at the screen. "But what if you forget? What if something happens? This way there's proof. Always proof." I let him continue. If documentation made him feel secure, who was I to stop him? May brought his 9th birthday. This time he asked for something specific. "Can I have my own computer? A real one?" They were expensive, but I'd been saving. Teaching pension plus careful budgeting meant I could afford it. I bought him a refurbished laptop, nothing fancy but his own. He set it up methodically, installed scanning software, created elaborate filing systems. Within a week, he'd transferred everything from my old computer and started creating something bigger. "What is this?" I asked, watching windows of data cascade across his screen. "A system. Everything connected. If I change one thing, everything else updates automatically. Nothing gets lost. Nothing contradicts." "Lucas, you're 9 years old. How do you know how to do this?" He shrugged, typed. "I read the manual. It's just logic and patterns." Just logic and patterns. As if creating database systems was something every 9-year-old could do. June brought the end of school year. Lucas's report card was perfect. All A's, teacher comments praising his work ethic and accuracy. But there was a note. Lucas would benefit from more social interaction with peers. I crumpled it up. Lucas had spent the year being bullied, documenting harassment, surviving each day. And they wanted more social interaction? That night, I told Lucas, "You don't have to be friends with everyone. You don't have to force yourself into social situations that hurt you. You're fine exactly as you are." He wrote, "Ms. Rodriguez says I need to try harder." Ms. Rodriguez is wrong. You try harder than anyone I know, just in different ways. He nodded slowly, then wrote something that broke my heart. "Why do people want me to be different? Why isn't who I am enough?" I had no answer. Because he was right. The world kept demanding he change, adapt, pretend to be someone he wasn't. And he was tired. "You're enough," I said firmly. "You've always been enough." He leaned his head against my shoulder. We sat like that while summer evening faded outside. Two people the world didn't quite understand, finding comfort in each other. His yellow cup sat on the table, chipped but present. A constant in the chaos. Some things at least stayed the same. Summer 2014 changed everything. Lucas turned 10 in June, and something shifted in him. He started asking questions I wasn't prepared for. "Where is my mother?" he asked one morning, not in his notebook but out loud. His voice startled me, he so rarely spoke. I set down my coffee. "I don't know, sweetheart. She left before you came to me." "Why did she leave me with Dad? Then Dad left me with you." "Your dad didn't leave you. He's serving in the military. He'll come back." Lucas stared at his Cheerios, counting them without touching them. "Everyone leaves. That's the pattern." My chest tightened. "I'm not leaving. I'm right here. For now." Those 2 words haunted me for days. He'd identified a pattern in his short life. People disappeared. His mother abandoned him. His father deployed. Why should I be different? I started making promises I hoped I could keep. I'm not going anywhere, Lucas. I promise. Even when you're grown, even when you don't need me anymore, I'll still be here. He wrote in his notebook. People break promises. I won't break this one. He didn't look convinced, but he nodded. July brought a discovery that changed Lucas's trajectory. I found him watching YouTube videos on my laptop, something I'd given him limited permission to do. But these weren't cartoons or games. They were coding tutorials. What are you watching? I asked. Learning Python. It's a programming language. I looked at the screen. Lines of text that looked like gibberish, numbers and symbols and words that meant nothing to me. Is this for fun? He typed in his notebook. It's patterns. Logic. If-then statements. It makes sense. People don't make sense, but code does. You write it correctly, it works. Every time. No emotions, no hidden meanings, just pure logic. Over the next week, he watched hours of tutorials, filled notebooks with code, writing it out by hand before typing it into the computer. He was teaching himself to program at age 10. By August, he'd created his first program. It was simple, a calculator that did basic math, but he'd built it from scratch. This is incredible, Lucas, I said, watching numbers appear on the screen. He wrote, It's not incredible. It's just following patterns. Computer code is easier than human language. Computers always do what you tell them. People don't. September brought 5th grade and a new teacher, Mr. Patterson. He was older, close to retirement, with decades of experience. He read Lucas's files, met with his therapists, and did something remarkable. He left Lucas alone. No pressure to make eye contact. No forced group projects. No demands that Lucas participate in ways that hurt him. Instead, Mr. Patterson gave Lucas advanced math workbooks and let him sit in the back corner with his noise-canceling headphones, working at his own pace. Your grandson is gifted, he told me at the first parent-teacher conference. His mathematical reasoning is extraordinary. He's working at an 8th grade level, maybe higher. What about socially? Socially, he's Lucas. He's polite, he's honest, he follows rules. He doesn't have friends, but he doesn't seem unhappy about it. Some kids are just solitary. It was the first time a teacher hadn't treated Lucas's differences as problems to fix. October brought more coding. Lucas spent every evening after homework writing programs. They started simple, calculators, timers, organizing tools. Then they got more complex. He built a program that sorted files by date, another that found duplicate documents, another that tracked patterns in data. What are you building all this for? I asked. He wrote, Practice. So when I build something important, I'll know how. What's the important thing? I don't know yet, but I'll know when I see it. November brought Daniel home. His deployment was over, 2.5 years longer than promised. He looked different. Older, quieter, with shadows in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Lucas was 10 now, not the 6-year-old Daniel had left. Taller, more self-contained, more independent. Hey buddy, Daniel said, dropping his bag in the hallway. Lucas looked up from his laptop, studied his father's face, then wrote, You're home. 924 days. You survived. Daniel's voice cracked. I survived. I'm home now. For how long? The question hung in the air. Daniel looked at me, then back at Lucas. For good. I'm done with deployment. I'm staying stateside, working at the base an hour away. I'll visit every weekend. Not living here? I have an apartment near the base. But I'm close. I'm not disappearing again. Lucas wrote, Okay, that's acceptable. Not I missed you. Not I love you. Just that's acceptable. Daniel's face fell, but I shook my head at him. This was Lucas's way. He'd spent years protecting himself from abandonment. Trust would take time. December brought routine. Daniel visited every Saturday, stayed for dinner, helped Lucas with projects. Slowly, carefully, they rebuilt something. Not the father-son relationship Daniel had imagined, but something real. One Saturday, Daniel asked Lucas about his coding. What's this program do? It verifies documents. Checks if they've been altered. Why would you need that? Lucas looked at me then typed. People lie. Documents can prove the truth. If you know how to read them correctly. Daniel didn't push, but I saw him processing it. His son, at age 10, was already thinking about evidence and proof and verification. Already building armor against a world that had hurt him. January 2015 brought a cold snap, and a question I wasn't prepared for. Lucas approached me with his laptop, showed me something he'd been working on. What is this? I asked, looking at screens of code. He typed. A system that tracks documents over time. If someone changes something, it leaves traces. This program finds those traces. It proves what was real versus what was changed. Why do you need to prove that? He hesitated, then wrote. Because you have all those binders. All those school meetings. All those times people said one thing then claimed they said something else. If you'd had this system, you could have proved they were lying. My throat tightened. He'd been paying attention all those years. Watching me fight schools and administrators and people who tried to diminish him. He'd seen the battles, remembered them, and decided to build a weapon for the next fight. Lucas, those fights are over. You're doing well now. But other kids aren't. Other grandmothers are fighting the same battles. This could help them. At 10 years old, he wasn't just thinking about himself. He was thinking about everyone like him. February brought testing. Lucas's therapist recommended an IQ evaluation. Not to label him but to understand him better. He sat through 3 hours of puzzles and patterns and questions, completing everything methodically. The results came back stunning. His pattern recognition is off the charts, the psychologist told me. His logical reasoning, his mathematical ability, his memory, all superior. But his social cognition scores are significantly lower. It's common with autism. His brain is wired for systems and logic, not social interaction. So he's smart but can't make friends? More like his intelligence expresses itself differently. He sees patterns others miss. He processes information with incredible accuracy. He just doesn't process emotions and social cues the same way. Neither is better or worse. They're just different. That night I told Lucas. The test results came back. You're remarkably intelligent. He wrote. I know. But people care more about whether I look them in the eye than whether I'm right. He wasn't wrong. The world valued social skills over accuracy, charm over intelligence, fitting in over standing out. The right people will see your value, I said. When? I couldn't answer that. Couldn't promise the world would recognize what he was capable of. But I believed it. Had to believe it. Because Lucas was building something extraordinary. Even if neither of us fully understood what yet. His yellow cup sat on his desk, next to his laptop. Some things remained constant even as everything else changed. Spring 2015 arrived with cherry blossoms and unexpected challenges. Lucas was 11 now, more focused than ever on his verification system. He'd filled 3 notebooks with code, testing different algorithms, trying to make his program foolproof. What happens if someone creates a fake document? He asked me one evening. How do you prove it's fake if it looks real? I don't know, sweetheart. Can computers tell the difference? He nodded, typing rapidly. Metadata. Every digital file has hidden information: when it was created, who created it, what software was used, how many times it was edited. People can change what a document says, but they usually forget to change the metadata. That's where the truth hides. At 11 years old, he was thinking like a forensic analyst. April brought trouble from an unexpected source. Principal Hayes called me to his office. Lucas wasn't with me this time. He was in class, working on advanced algebra while his classmates learned basic multiplication. Mrs. Chen, I want to discuss Lucas's placement for middle school next year. My stomach tightened. What about it? We think he'd benefit from our special program. Smaller classes, more individualized attention, peers who understand his challenges. You mean separate him from mainstream classes? Mr. Hayes folded his hands. He's academically advanced, yes, but socially he's struggling. He has no friends. He doesn't participate in group activities. He sits alone every lunch period. Because he chooses to. He's not lonely, Mr. Hayes. He's content. Is he? Or is he isolated because he can't connect with typical peers? I leaned forward. Lucas is working 2 grade levels ahead in math. He's teaching himself computer programming. He reads high school level books. You want to put him in a class that moves slower because he doesn't eat lunch with other kids. Social skills are important, Mrs. Chen. So is not crushing his intellectual growth. Lucas communicates differently, but he communicates. He has goals and interests and capabilities your special program would ignore. The meeting ended badly. Mr. Hayes said he'd think about it, which meant he'd already decided and was giving me time to accept it. That night, I called a lawyer I'd used years ago for my husband's estate. I need to understand Lucas's educational rights. She explained IEP's least restrictive environment idea protections. If he can succeed in mainstream classes with accommodations, they can't force him into special education just because he's autistic. What if they try? You fight. Document everything. Document everything. Lucas had been teaching me that for years. May brought the IEP meeting. I arrived with binders, 3 years of Lucas's report cards, test scores, teacher comments, therapy progress notes. Everything showing he was succeeding academically. The school brought a team. Mr. Hayes, the special education coordinator, the school psychologist, Lucas's current teacher Mr. Patterson, and a district representative. They presented their case. Lucas needed more support, smaller setting, specialized instruction. I presented mine. Lucas needed challenge, not limitation. His test scores proved he could handle mainstream curriculum. His teachers confirmed he completed all work accurately. His only problem was being different. Mr. Patterson surprised everyone. I've taught for 32 years. Lucas is one of the brightest students I've ever had. Putting him in special education because he doesn't socialize would be educational malpractice. The district representative looked uncomfortable. Mr. Patterson, we're trying to do what's best for. I know what's best for my student. Challenging him academically while accommodating his autism. Not segregating him because he makes adults uncomfortable. The room went silent. An experienced teacher publicly disagreeing with administration changed the dynamic. They agreed to keep Lucas in mainstream classes for middle school with continued accommodations. I won, but it left me exhausted. How many more battles would we fight? June brought Lucas's 11th birthday and a request that surprised me. Can I have a better computer? Mine is too slow for what I'm building. What are you building that needs more power? He showed me his verification system. It had grown enormously. Not just checking documents but cross-referencing them, building timelines, detecting inconsistencies across multiple files. Lucas, this is sophisticated. It's not finished. I need to test it with more data, more documents. I need everything we have. Your school meeting notes, my therapy records, everything. We spent July scanning. Years of paperwork, thousands of pages. Lucas fed them all into his system, let it analyze patterns, build connections, verify authenticity. One afternoon he called me to his room. Look at this. His screen showed a document from 2013, a school meeting note. His program had flagged it. What's wrong with it? The date stamp doesn't match the metadata. Someone wrote it after the meeting, then backdated it to look official. I stared at the screen. How do you know? The software used to create this document wasn't released until 6 months after the meeting date. So either time travel exists, or someone created this later and lied about when. He'd caught a forgery I'd never noticed. The school had documented a meeting incorrectly, probably to cover themselves. Can your system do this for any document? That's the goal. If I can make it accurate enough, it could help people prove what's real versus what's fabricated. August brought Daniel's regular weekend visits. He'd been consistent for 9 months now, showing up every Saturday at 2 p.m. Lucas had started expecting him, even preparing questions about programming and systems. Dad, how do you verify information in the military? Daniel looked surprised. Lucas had initiated conversation. Chain of custody. Multiple sources. Documentation at every step. What if someone falsifies something? That's court-martial territory. Military records are sacred. Why? Lucas showed him the verification system. Daniel watched, stunned. as Lucas demonstrated how 𝐥𝐞𝐼 forged documents. "Lucas, this is incredible. Do you know what this could be worth? Government agencies, corporations, law firms. Everyone needs verification systems. I'm 11. No one will take me seriously. Not yet. But keep building it. By the time you're 16, 17, this could be something major." September brought 6th grade at Valley Middle School. New building, new teachers, new challenges. But Lucas had Mr. Patterson's recommendation, and the middle school staff had been briefed. His homeroom teacher, Ms. Lee, approached me the first week. I read Lucas's file. Impressive academics. I won't push him socially, but I will challenge him intellectually. Deal. Deal. October brought an unexpected friendship. A boy named Marcus transferred to Valley Middle. He was in 8th grade but placed in Lucas's advanced math class. Marcus had ADHD, struggled to sit still, talked constantly. Complete opposite of Lucas. But Marcus understood computers. During a class project, he saw Lucas's laptop, saw the code Lucas was working on. "Dude, did you write that?" Lucas nodded. "That's sick. Can you teach me?" And somehow, impossibly, they connected. Marcus talked enough for both of them. Lucas wrote responses or spoke occasionally. They started eating lunch together, Marcus rambling about video games and skateboarding, Lucas half listening while coding, both comfortable in their odd dynamic. I met Marcus's mother at pickup one day. "Your son is Lucas's first friend," I told her. She smiled. "Marcus doesn't have many friends either. Too hyper for most kids. But he came home excited yesterday, talking about Lucas's programming. First time he's been enthusiastic about school in years. Different kinds of different could work together. Who knew?" November brought Thanksgiving and Daniel cooking dinner at my house. Lucas set the table precisely. Plates exactly 2 inches from the edge, forks perpendicular to the table's edge. "Why so exact?" Daniel asked, amused. "Because chaos is uncomfortable," Lucas said quietly. "Order makes sense." Daniel looked at me, saw the years of battles in my eyes, understood suddenly how hard Lucas worked to make sense of a confusing world. "Order makes sense," Daniel repeated. "Yeah, buddy. It does." December brought snow and a breakthrough. Lucas finished the core of his verification system. It could analyze documents, detect forgeries, build timelines, cross-reference data. "I need to test it on something real," he said. "Something important." "Like what?" He looked at me. "Your school records. All those battles you fought. Let me analyze everything. See if the schools lied, see if my system can prove it." We fed in years of documentation. The system worked for 3 hours, analyzing, comparing, verifying. It found 12 instances where school officials had altered documents after meetings, changed notes to favor their position, backdated paperwork to look official. "They lied," Lucas said, staring at the results. "Multiple times. You were right, and they lied to cover it." I should have been angry. Instead, I was proud. My grandson had built something that exposed truth. "This system," I said quietly. "It's powerful, Lucas." "I know. That's why it has to be perfect. Because once people know it works, they'll try to use it. And if it's wrong even once, no one will trust it again." At 11 years old, he understood responsibility better than most adults. His yellow cup sat beside his laptop, constant companion. Some things never changed. Some things just got stronger. Winter 2016 brought changes nobody expected. Lucas turned 12 in June, and suddenly everything shifted. He was taller, his voice deeper, his focus even more intense. The verification system had consumed him completely. "I need more processing power," he said one Saturday morning. "My laptop can't handle the calculations anymore." Daniel was visiting. He looked at Lucas's screen, saw programs running simultaneously, data streaming. "What are you processing?" 7 years of documentation. Every school meeting, every therapy session, every medical record, every receipt. Building a complete verified timeline of my life. "Why?" Daniel asked gently. Lucas didn't answer immediately. Then, "Because Mom left no documentation. You deployed with no official custody paperwork. Grandma raised me without legal guardianship. If someone ever questioned it, we'd have no proof. This way we have proof of everything." Daniel looked at me, his face stricken. Lucas was building a fortress of evidence to protect himself from abandonment that had already happened. Lucas, nobody's questioning anything, I said. Not yet. But they might. People lie. Documents don't. We couldn't argue with that logic. So Daniel bought him a better computer. A real desktop with serious processing power. Lucas set it up in his room, 3 monitors, keyboard, mouse, everything organized precisely. January brought 7th grade and new problems. Lucas's math teacher, Mr. Brooks, called me after the first week. Mrs. Chen, Lucas is correcting me constantly. In front of other students. It's undermining my authority. Is he wrong? Pause. No, but that's not the point. Then what is the point? Students need to respect teachers. Lucas acts like he knows more than I do. In mathematics he might. He's been working at high school level for 2 years. He's 12. Yes. A 12-year-old who sees errors and corrects them because accuracy matters to him. That's not disrespect, Mr. Brooks. That's honesty. The conversation went nowhere. 2 weeks later, another call. Lucas had corrected Mr. Brooks again, this time showing him an alternative solution method that was more efficient. He humiliated me, Mr. Brooks said. I was tired of this pattern. Mr. Brooks, you have 2 choices. Challenge Lucas appropriately so he's not bored and noticing your errors, or accept that sometimes a gifted autistic kid will be right when you're wrong. Your ego is not my grandson's problem. He hung up on me. The next week, Lucas was moved to 8th grade math. The new teacher, Mrs. Park, welcomed him. I've heard you're exceptional. Show me what you can do. February brought Marcus more regularly into our lives. He started coming over after school, working on projects with Lucas. They made an odd pair, Marcus bouncing around, talking constantly, Lucas quiet and focused, responding occasionally. Your grandson is brilliant, Marcus's mother told me. Marcus has been teaching himself programming because Lucas inspired him. First time he's stuck with something. March brought a breakthrough in Lucas's system. He'd been refining the verification algorithms, making them more accurate, harder to fool. One evening he called me and Daniel to his room. I want to show you something. He pulled up a document on screen, my birth certificate. Then he ran his program. Numbers appeared. Analysis results, verification status. This is real, he said. Created in 1948. Never altered, signatures authentic. Now watch. He pulled up another document, a fake birth certificate he created himself, trying to fool his own system. Ran the program again. Within seconds it flagged multiple issues. Wrong paper stock for the claimed date. Ink composition inconsistent with 1940s technology. Digital artifacts proving modern creation. It catches everything, Lucas said. Every inconsistency, every anachronism, every attempt at forgery. I've tested it against hundreds of documents. It hasn't been wrong once. Daniel whistled. Lucas, do you understand what you've built? This is revolutionary. It's just pattern recognition. No, it's genius. Lucas shrugged. Compliments meant nothing to him. Only accuracy mattered. April brought standardized testing. Lucas scored in the 99th percentile in math and science. His English scores were lower. He understood grammar and vocabulary perfectly but struggled with reading comprehension questions that asked him to infer characters' emotions. These questions are stupid, he told me, showing me the practice test. It asks what the character is feeling. How am I supposed to know? They don't say what they're feeling. I can't read minds. You're supposed to use context clues. That's guessing. I don't guess. I use evidence. The irony wasn't lost on me. He'd built a system that detected truth in documents, but couldn't detect implied emotions in fictional characters. His brain worked in certainties, not maybes. May brought Lucas's 13th birthday. Officially a teenager, though he acted no different than before. Same routines, same focus, same yellow cup that had somehow survived 7 years. Do you want a party? I asked. Invite some classmates? No. Can Marcus come over? We're working on something. Marcus came. They spent 6 hours in Lucas's room coding, testing, barely speaking. When Marcus left, he was buzzing with excitement. Mrs. Chen, Lucas is building something amazing. Like really amazing. I can't say what, but it's big. June brought the end of 7th grade. Lucas's report card showed perfect grades except for English, where his teacher noted, exceptional technical writing, struggles with creative interpretation and emotional analysis. I wasn't concerned. The world needed people who saw facts clearly, who didn't get lost in emotional interpretation. Lucas was exactly who he was supposed to be. July brought heat and more coding. Lucas rarely left his room except for meals. His system had grown massive. Thousands of lines of code, complex algorithms, databases of verified information. When will it be done? I asked. Never. It can always be better, more accurate, more comprehensive. But it's functional now. It works. August brought Daniel's news. He'd been offered a promotion, better pay, but it meant relocating to a base 4 hours away. He sat us down, explained carefully. I can decline it, he said, looking at Lucas. Stay here, keep visiting weekly. Lucas calculated silently. Then take it. 4 hours is drivable. You can visit monthly instead of weekly. Same total hours per year, just consolidated. You're okay with that? It's logical. Your career matters. We can adjust. Daniel looked relieved and sad simultaneously. You're very practical, buddy. Emotions don't change facts. The distance is what it is. September brought 8th grade. Lucas's last year of middle school. His teachers had learned to challenge him, give him advanced work, leave him alone socially. He'd found his niche, the quiet kid in the corner who knew everything and bothered no one. October brought a school project that changed everything. Students had to create something demonstrating problem-solving skills. Most kids made posters or PowerPoint presentations. Lucas built a working demonstration of his verification system. He showed how it analyzed documents, caught forgeries, verified authenticity, used examples of historical document frauds, showed how his system would have caught them. The teacher, Mr. Hernandez, was speechless. Lucas, this is college-level work. Graduate school level. How did you build this? I've been building it for 4 years. You're 14. Yes. Mr. Hernandez called me that evening. Mrs. Chen, your grandson is exceptional. Beyond exceptional. This project he built, it's publishable. It's revolutionary. Has he considered entering science competitions? He builds for himself, not for recognition. Still, he should know his capabilities. What he's created. Universities would be interested. Companies would be interested. After we hung up, I went to Lucas's room. Your teacher is very impressed. Lucas didn't look up from his screen. The project was adequate. More than adequate. He thinks you should enter competitions. Why? I don't need validation. I need accuracy. Not for validation. For opportunity. If the right people see what you've built. Not yet. He finally looked at me. It's not ready. It works, but it's not perfect. When it's perfect, then people can see it. November brought Thanksgiving with Daniel visiting from his new post. He looked good, the promotion had been good for him. More responsibility, better purpose. How's the system? He asked Lucas over dinner. 97% accurate. I'm working on the remaining 3%. That's incredibly accurate already. 97% means 3 errors per 100 documents. That's 3 falsely accused people or 3 criminals going free. Not acceptable. December brought snow and revelation. Late one night I found Lucas at his computer. Not coding but staring at a document on screen. My custody papers, the informal ones Daniel had left when he deployed. What are you doing? Analyzing what we don't have. No official custody transfer. No legal guardianship paperwork. No termination of parental rights from my biological mother. If she ever came back, claimed me, we'd have no legal standing. My blood ran cold. Lucas, she's been gone 8 years. She's not coming back. Probably not. But if she did, what proof do we have that you raised me? That she abandoned me? He gestured to his system. This. 7 years of documentation. Proof of every day you fed me, housed me, educated me, cared for me. Proof she was never there. If it came to court, we'd have evidence. He was 14 years old, preparing for a battle that might never come. Or preparing for one he somehow knew would. Spring 2020 brought a pandemic and isolation. But for Lucas, nothing much changed. The world locked down in March. Schools closed. People panicked. But Lucas had been living in his room with his computers for years already. The only difference was I couldn't leave either. Does this bother you? I asked him during the first week of lockdown. Being stuck at home? He looked up from his screen, genuinely confused. I'm always home. This is normal for me. The rest of the world just caught up. He was 15 now, finishing 9th grade online. His teachers emailed assignments. He completed them in an hour and went back to his real work, the verification system. April brought the breakthrough. Late one night I heard him call out, actually yell, which Lucas never did. Grandma, come here. I rushed to his room. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. It's done. The system is done. He showed me his screen. Clean interface, simple buttons, elegant design. Nothing fancy, just functional. What does it do? I asked. Everything. Analyzes any document, PDF, image, scan, digital file. Checks metadata, timestamps, digital signatures, paper composition if scanned, ink analysis, handwriting verification. Cross-references against known authentic samples. Builds timelines. Detects alterations. Catches forgeries 99.4% accuracy. That's incredible, Lucas. It's adequate. Finally adequate. He turned to face me, actually making eye contact for a moment. I want to sell it. Sell it? To who? Security companies. Fraud prevention. Law firms. Government agencies. Anyone who needs to verify documents are real. Lucas, you're 15. I know. But the system works. Age doesn't change that. May brought research. Lucas spent weeks identifying potential buyers, learning about markets and licensing and intellectual property. He wrote professional emails, clear, direct, technical. His autism that made social interaction difficult made business communication perfect. No fluff, no politeness games, just facts. I'm offering demonstrations, he told me. 5 companies responded. They want to see it work. June brought his 16th birthday and his first video call with a security firm. I sat beside him, worried. He was calm, methodical, showing them document after document, the system catching every forgery, every alteration, every inconsistency. The executive on the other end was silent for a long moment. How old did you say you were? 16. And you built this yourself? Yes. Over 7 years. We'd like to discuss licensing terms. The first sale came 2 weeks later. A small cybersecurity company bought a license for $20,000. $20,000. Lucas accepted it without emotion, like it was inevitable. Aren't you excited? I asked. It's less than the system is worth. But it's proof of concept. Now I have a client. Others will follow. He was right. Word spread in security circles. A teenager had built something remarkable. More companies wanted demonstrations. Lucas took call after call, his calm voice explaining technical concepts without dumbing them down. July brought 3 more sales. August for more. By September, Lucas had made over $150,000. He was 16 years old with more money in his account than I'd made in 5 years of teaching. What will you do with it? Daniel asked during a visit. Save it. For college, for the future. Money is just a tool. October brought the big offers. Tech companies wanted exclusive rights. Fortune 500 corporations wanted enterprise licenses. The numbers jumped from thousands to hundreds of thousands. I need help, Lucas admitted. I don't understand these contracts. I found a lawyer through a colleague, 𝐤𝐴, who specialized in intellectual property. He met with us on a Saturday, reviewed 3 contract offers, and his eyebrows kept rising. Lucas, these are substantial offers. 6 figures, some approaching 7. Which is best? James explained licensing versus acquisition, royalties versus lump sum, rights and restrictions and non-compete clauses. I want to sell it completely, Lucas said. Full acquisition. I don't want to manage updates or support or licensing. Just sell it and be done. You're sure? Licensing could pay more long-term. Yes. I have other things to build. This system is finished. James looked surprised. What do you mean other things? This was practice. The next thing will be better. November brought negotiations. Lucas sat through video calls with executives offering millions of dollars, and he negotiated like he'd been doing it for decades. Calm, direct, unwilling to accept terms that didn't favor him. "You're a natural at this," James said after one particularly intense call. "It's just logic. They want the system. I want fair payment. Emotions don't change the value of what I built." December brought the final offer. Andersen Security, a major corporation, offered $3.2 million for complete acquisition, source code, documentation, everything. 5-year non-compete clause. Lucas couldn't build competing verification systems. "Do you agree to the non-compete?" James asked. "Yes. I don't want to build verification systems anymore. I'm done with this category. What will you build next?" Lucas smiled slightly, the first time I'd seen him smile in months. Something different. Something better. January 2021 brought the sale. Lucas turned 16 on his birthday and sold his system 3 weeks later. $3.2 million. The number didn't feel real. "What now?" I asked him that evening. "Now we wait." "Wait for what?" "For people to notice." February brought the media attention Lucas had somehow expected. A local news reporter, 𝐥𝐞𝐟𝐭, heard about the teenage genius who'd built revolutionary security software. She wanted to do a story. "I don't want cameras in the house," I said. "It's fine," Lucas replied. "Let them come." Kate arrived on a Thursday with a cameraman. She set up in our living room, asked Lucas questions about his system, his process, his autism. "What made you want to create this?" she asked. Lucas looked directly at the camera. That unnerving direct stare. "I wanted to know what was real. People lie. Documents don't, if you know how to read them correctly." "Very insightful. What will you do with the money?" "I don't know yet." She tried more questions, looking for emotional human interest, proud grandmother, genius grandson, inspiring autism story. But Lucas answered every question the same way. Factual, brief, honest. The segment aired Friday evening. Local teen creates revolutionary security software. 2 minutes of Lucas at his computer. Me in the background, dramatic music making it seem more miraculous than it was. "How do you feel?" I asked when it ended. "Fine. But I noticed something." He wasn't celebrating. Wasn't relaxed. He kept checking his phone, watching the door like he was expecting something. "Lucas, what's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything is proceeding as expected." "As expected? What does that mean?" He looked at me, and for the first time in years I saw something in his eyes I couldn't read. Not fear, not excitement. Something else. Preparation. "I told you. I built this system for a reason. Now we wait to see if I was right." "Right about what?" "About what happens when people know there's money." My blood ran cold. "Lucas, what are you saying?" "I'm saying I documented everything for a reason. I built a verification system for a reason. And now we'll find out if the reason was correct." He went back to his room, closed the door. I stood in the living room, suddenly terrified without knowing why. 2 weeks passed. Normal, quiet routine. Daniel visited, congratulated Lucas, tried to understand what his son had accomplished. Marcus came over, buzzed with excitement about the money and the news coverage. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Lucas was in his room. I opened the door and my world stopped. A woman in a gray suit. Expensive, professional. Hair perfect. A man beside her in a dark suit, carrying a briefcase. The woman smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "Hi, Mom. Rachel. After 9 years. Standing on my doorstep. "We need to talk about Ethan," she said, using a name Lucas had never been called. "About custody and his financial situation." My hands went numb. My throat closed. I couldn't speak. Behind me, I heard Lucas's door open. He walked down the hallway, stopped beside me, looked at Rachel with absolutely no emotion on his face. No surprise. No fear. Nothing. Like he'd been expecting her all along. "Come in," he said calmly. "We should talk." And I realized then, everything Lucas had built, all those years of documentation and verification systems and evidence collection, it had never been about the past. It had been preparing for this exact moment. Rachel stepped into our house, and the battle Lucas had been preparing for began. They sat at my kitchen table. The same table where Lucas and I had eaten breakfast for 9 years. Where we'd done homework and scanned documents and built our life together. Now Rachel sat there, hands folded, her lawyer beside her opening his briefcase. "Mrs. Chen," the lawyer said, smooth and professional. "My name is Stephen Walsh. I represent 𝐥𝐿. We're here to discuss custody arrangements and financial guardianship for Ethan." "His name is Lucas," I said, my voice shaking. "His legal name is Ethan Lucas Cooper," Walsh continued. "My client has maintained parental rights and wishes to resume active custody." Custody. The word came out strangled. She abandoned him 9 years ago. Rachel spoke then, her voice soft, sad. "Mom, I know you're upset. And I'm grateful for everything you've done. But I never abandoned Ethan. I've been co-parenting from a distance, maintaining contact, providing support." "That's a lie. You disappeared. Never called, never visited, nothing." Walsh pulled out documents. Official-looking papers with seals and signatures. These show Mrs. Cooper maintained legal parental rights. She documented her financial support and communication over the years. She's entitled to custody, and given Ethan's minor status, management of his financial assets. I stared at the papers. They looked real. Professional. My chest tightened. "Those are fake," I said. "They're properly notarized and filed," Walsh replied calmly. "Unless you can prove otherwise, they stand as legal documentation." I looked at Lucas. He was watching Rachel with that analytical stare like she was a problem to solve. His face was completely blank. "Ethan, honey," Rachel said, turning to him. "I know this is confusing, but I'm your mother. I've always been your mother. I just needed time to get healthy to be ready for you." Lucas didn't respond, didn't blink, just watched her. "We should get a lawyer," he said quietly to me. The next 3 days were a nightmare. I found Linda Reyes, a family law attorney with 20 years of experience. She came to our house, reviewed Rachel's documents for hours. Finally she looked up. "Mrs. Chen, these look legitimate. Very professionally done. But they're fake. She's lying. I believe you. But without concrete proof these documents are forged, a judge might rule in her favor." "Why?" "Because she never legally terminated parental rights. There's no court record of custody transfer. You've been raising Lucas informally, but legally, she's still his parent on paper. My world was ending. So she can just take him? She's not trying to take physical custody. He's 16. Courts rarely force teenagers to move. She's after financial guardianship. Control of his assets until he's 18. The $3.2 million. That's what this was about. Can we fight it?" Linda's expression was grave. "Yes. But I need you to understand, her case looks strong. She has documentation, a compelling narrative. Unless we can prove those documents are fraudulent, we'll lose." That night, I broke down at the kitchen table. "We're going to lose you," I sobbed. "After everything, we're going to lose." Lucas stood up, walked to his room without a word. No comfort, no reassurance, nothing. Just left me there crying. I wanted him to care, to show fear or something. But he just disappeared behind his door. The deposition started 2 weeks later. Rachel went first, sitting in the conference room perfectly composed. Expensive clothes, professional demeanor. Walsh asked her questions. She answered smoothly. "Can you describe your involvement in Ethan's life?" I tried to maintain consistent contact. I visited monthly when possible, sent financial support through money orders, called regularly to check on his progress. She provided dates. Specific months she claimed to have visited. Exact dollar amounts supposedly sent. December 2012, $300. April 2014, $500. On and on, a detailed financial record that never happened. I sat there listening, nails digging into my palms, unable to speak. "Why are you seeking custody arrangements now?" Walsh asked. Rachel's eyes got misty. "Because Ethan has significant assets that need proper management. And because he's approaching adulthood, I want to be present for this crucial transition. To guide him. To make up for lost time." She looked at me when she said it. Sad, regretful, convincing. Linda pulled me aside afterward. "Her testimony is detailed, consistent. That's very convincing to judges. It's all lies. I know. But can you prove it? Lucas's deposition was 3 days later. Walsh asked him questions about memories of his mother, about her involvement. Lucas answered carefully. Do you remember your mother visiting? I don't recall specific visits. Do you remember phone calls? I'd have to check my records. What about financial support? I don't remember receiving money from her. Walsh looked pleased. Like Lucas's poor memory supported Rachel's story. He thought Lucas, being autistic, simply didn't remember clearly. He had no idea. Court day arrived. March 15, 2021. I woke up at 5 a.m., couldn't eat, couldn't think. Lucas came out of his room at 7, showered, dressed in the button-down shirt we'd bought for court. He looked calm. Too calm. Are you scared? I asked. No. Lucas, we might lose. We won't. You don't know that. He looked at me then, actually made eye contact. Trust me. Just tell the truth today. That's all you have to do. We drove to the courthouse. Linda met us on the steps, reviewed the strategy one last time. Remember, stay calm. Let me do the talking. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights, smell of old paper. Judge Harrison sat at the bench, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and gray hair. Rachel sat at the front table with Walsh, looking like a concerned mother. We sat at our table, Linda on one side, Lucas on the other. The hearing began. Walsh presented Rachel's case smoothly. Devoted mother, maintained involvement, documentary evidence. He laid out the fake documents on the evidence table. Judge Harrison reviewed them carefully. Then Rachel testified. Same story as the deposition. Visits, phone calls, money orders. All lies delivered with perfect sincerity. Linda presented our side. My binders, years of school meetings, therapy records, medical appointments. Everything proving I'd raised Lucas alone. But as she went through them, I could see the judge's doubt. Sympathy but uncertainty. Miss Reyes, Judge Harrison said. These records show Mrs. Chen has been the primary caregiver, but I don't see formal guardianship documentation. My chest tightened. We were losing. Your Honor, Linda said carefully. Rachel Cooper abandoned Ethan when he was 6 years old. Without legal documentation of that abandonment, her parental rights remain intact, the judge replied. Rachel looked at Walsh, smiled slightly. She thought she'd won. I looked at Lucas beside me, desperate. He was watching Rachel, his face completely blank. I leaned close, whispered, she's lying. We have to stop her. He turned his head slightly, whispered back. Let her talk. What? Let her say everything she wants to say. Don't interrupt. Just let her talk. I didn't understand. We were losing, and he wanted Rachel to keep lying? Judge Harrison looked at Lucas. Young man, do you wish to speak? Long pause. Lucas sat perfectly still. Then he stood. Yes, Your Honor. I have evidence. My heart stopped. What evidence? I'd given Linda everything. Approach, Judge Harrison said. Lucas picked up a bag I hadn't noticed him carrying. Walked to the witness stand, calm, steady, like he'd rehearsed this 1,000 times. He pulled out his laptop. May I connect this to the display, Your Honor? Judge Harrison looked surprised. What are you presenting? Verification of document authenticity and timeline evidence. I built a system that proves whether documents are real or forged. Walsh stood immediately. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. We weren't informed. Your client presented fraudulent documents 6 weeks ago, Lucas said, looking at Walsh directly. I'm presenting analysis of those documents now. Judge Harrison studied Lucas. Proceed. But this better be relevant. Lucas connected his laptop. The courtroom display lit up. And everything Rachel had built. Every lie, every fake document, every false claim was about to fall apart. Because Lucas had been preparing for this moment for 7 years. And he was ready. Lucas pulled up Rachel's custody documents on the courtroom display. They looked official: stamps, signatures, professional formatting. These documents claimed to be from 2012 through 2020, Lucas said, his voice calm and clear. But the digital metadata shows they were all created 6 weeks ago, right after the news story about my software sale aired. He clicked through screens. Creation dates, file properties, editing history. All time-stamped. All recent. Walsh stood. Your Honor, metadata can be manipulated. Not in this case, Lucas said. The signature verification shows additional discrepancies. He pulled up his birth certificate, Rachel's signature from 2006, then ran his program comparing it to the signatures on the custody documents. Numbers appeared. Statistical analysis. Graphs. The pressure patterns don't match. The letter formation is inconsistent. The spacing is different by an average of 2.3 millimeters. These signatures were forged. Judge Harrison leaned forward. How do you know this? I built a verification system. It analyzes documents for authenticity. It's what I sold last month for $3.2 million. The judge blinked. You're 16. Yes, Your Honor. Continue. Lucas pulled up a new screen. A timeline. Years of data, color-coded, cross-referenced. These are my records. I've been documenting my life since I was 9 years old, after I learned that people lie but evidence doesn't. He showed spreadsheets, scanned documents, photographs, all time-stamped and verified. Mrs. Cooper claims she visited in December 2013. Here's my grandmother's calendar from that month showing our complete schedule. Here are time-stamped photos from that week. Here's my therapy session notes from December 9th. Therapist confirmed no mother present. Here's my school attendance record showing I was present every day. No visits occurred. He clicked through more screens. December 2013. No Rachel. Mrs. Cooper claims she sent money orders totaling $7,300 over 8 years. Here are my grandmother's complete bank records from 2012 to 2020. Every single transaction documented. Not $1 from Rachel Cooper. Bank statements filled the screen. Every deposit highlighted. Every source documented. Nothing from Rachel. Mrs. Cooper claims she called regularly. Here are phone company records from 2012 to present. 0 calls from her number after June 15, 2012, the day she dropped me off. Phone records. Years of them. Rachel's number nowhere. Every claim Rachel had made, Lucas demolished with evidence. Dates, times, documents, all cross-referenced and verified by the system he'd spent 7 years building. Walsh tried to interrupt. Your Honor, this evidence wasn't disclosed. Because you presented fraudulent documents 6 weeks ago, Lucas said. I built the verification system to analyze them. It took me 6 weeks to complete the analysis because I wanted to be absolutely certain. You couldn't have built something like this in 6 weeks, Walsh said desperately. I didn't. I've been building it for 7 years. I just finished analyzing these specific documents 6 weeks ago. Judge Harrison stared at him. You've been documenting your life for 7 years? Yes, Your Honor. Every calendar entry my grandmother made. Every receipt she kept. Every therapy session. Every school meeting. Every bank transaction. Everything is time-stamped, cross-referenced, and cryptographically verified. The system makes it impossible to alter retroactively. He pulled up more screens, showed how each document connected to others, how the verification codes proved nothing had been changed. So when Mrs. Cooper says she visited monthly, sent money, called regularly, I can prove she didn't. Because I have proof of what actually happened. What was real? The courtroom was silent. Judge Harrison looked at Rachel. Mrs. Cooper, can you explain these discrepancies? Rachel's face had gone pale. She looked at Walsh, panicked. The metadata could be wrong. The dates might be. I did visit. I did send money. When exactly? The judge asked. December 2013. I remember. Do you have proof? Receipts, photos, anything? Rachel stammered. I didn't keep records. I was there. I know I was there. But you have detailed financial records of money orders sent? Yes. Those show. She was falling apart, contradicting herself. Mrs. Cooper, Judge Harrison said coldly. Did you, or did you not falsify custody documents? I know. My lawyer said. Walsh looked sick. Lucas spoke again. Your Honor, may I show one more thing? The judge nodded. Lucas pulled up a file. This is every grocery receipt from 2012 to 2020. Over 3,000 receipts. They show what my grandmother bought when and how she paid. No financial assistance from anyone. She did this alone, with a teacher's pension and careful budgeting. All documented, all verified, all real. Judge Harrison looked at the evidence, at the timeline, at the overwhelming proof that Rachel had been gone for 9 years. "I've seen enough," she said. She didn't even recess. Ruled from the bench. "Rachel Cooper, I find your testimony not credible, and your documentation fraudulent. Full custody and guardianship is awarded to Vivian Chen." "Margaret," I whispered. "Margaret Chen." "Margaret Chen," the judge corrected. "Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for investigation of perjury and document fraud." Rachel made a choking sound. "This hearing is adjourned." The gavel struck. It was over. Outside the courthouse, I couldn't stop shaking. Lucas stood beside me, calm as always. "You knew," I said. "You've been preparing for this since you were 9 years old." I saw the pattern. People leave. People lie. People come back when there's money. I needed to be ready. "Lucas, you built an entire system, spent 7 years documenting everything, just in case she came back?" "Not just in case. I calculated the probability at 73% once the news story aired. She fit the psychological profile of someone who would return when there was financial incentive." I stared at my grandson, this boy who'd been abandoned, who couldn't read social cues, who struggled to understand emotions. He'd predicted human behavior with terrifying accuracy. "You're extraordinary," I whispered. "I'm prepared." There's a difference. 6 months later, life looked different but felt the same. Rachel got 2 years probation and 500 hours community service at an autism resource center. 3 months in, I was dropping off donated supplies and saw her on the floor, reading to nonverbal children. She looked up, saw me. We both froze. She looked exhausted, humbled, nothing like the woman who'd shown up with a lawyer. I didn't speak to her. Just watched for a moment, then left. Lucas couldn't work in data security anymore. The non-compete clause was clear. So he started something new. A software testing and quality assurance company. "I'm hiring people like me," he said over breakfast one morning. "Autistic people. We see patterns others miss." His first hire was Stephen. I recognized the name immediately. He'd been my student 20 years ago. I'd fought the school board for him in 4th grade. They said he'd never hold a job. "Mrs. Chen," Stephen said when I visited the office, "you told the principal I wasn't broken, just different. Mr. Lucas says the same thing. He gave me a chance when no one else would." Then Marcus joined. Then 3 others, all autistic, all brilliant in ways traditional jobs couldn't accommodate. I visited Lucas's office one afternoon. 6 desks, everyone wearing headphones, quiet, focused, comfortable. Lucas moved between them, checking work, answering questions, building something beautiful. "You're changing lives," I said. "I'm hiring people who think like me." That's just logical. But it was more than logic. It was Lucas, who'd been told he'd never succeed, giving others like him the chance he'd fought for. One Tuesday evening, I brought dinner to Lucas's apartment like I always did. His yellow cup sat on the counter, chipped and faded but still his favorite. We ate at his small table, quiet, comfortable. I started clearing plates. Lucas put his phone down. "Margaret." I turned around. He never called me by my first name. "I know what you gave up for me," he said, looking at his hands. "Your friends stopped calling. You stopped traveling. I heard you on the phone once, turning down a trip because you couldn't leave me." My throat tightened. "You could have sent me away like my mother did. The school suggested it multiple times. You didn't. Lucas, you're my grandson. I know, but you chose it. Every single day. Even when I couldn't say thank you. Even when I made your life harder." Silence. Just the hum of his refrigerator. "It mattered," he said quietly. "Everything you did. It mattered." I reached across the table, put my hand near his. Not touching but close. "You were worth every single day," I said. "Every battle, every sleepless night. Every moment of doubt. You were worth all of it." He nodded slowly. "I know that now. And I know something else." "What?" "You saved me. Not by fixing me or changing me. By letting me be exactly who I am. By fighting for me when the world wanted me to be different. By believing I was enough when I didn't believe it myself." Tears ran down my face. You've always been enough, Lucas. Always. We sat there a moment longer. Then I got up, finished the dishes while he opened his laptop. Same routine. Same comfortable silence. But something important had been said. I kissed the top of his head on my way out. He didn't flinch, even leaned into it slightly. See you Tuesday, I said. Tuesday, he confirmed. I drove home through streets I'd driven 1,000 times. Same route, same turns. The way we'd always done it. My phone buzzed at a red light. A text from Lucas. Thank you for everything. For seeing me when others couldn't. For fighting when I didn't know how. For staying when everyone else left. You gave me the foundation to build my life on. I won't forget that. Ever. I pulled over, read it 3 times, cried until I couldn't see. 17 years ago, my son had left a 6-year-old autistic boy on my doorstep. A boy who wouldn't speak, wouldn't look at me. Who existed in a world I didn't understand. That boy had grown into a young man who'd built a multi-million-dollar company, who employed people society had discarded, who'd taken his pain and transformed it into purpose. He'd done it not despite his autism, but because of who he was. Because his brain saw patterns others missed. Because his need for truth and accuracy had driven him to create something extraordinary. And I'd been there. Through every moment. Every challenge. Every victory. The world had told us he'd never succeed. They'd been wrong. Lucas had succeeded beyond anyone's imagination. Not by becoming someone different. By becoming more fully himself. I drove home smiling, thinking about Tuesday dinner. About his yellow cup. About the life we'd built together through routine and patience and unconditional acceptance. Some people get the life they planned. Others get something better. I got Lucas. And that was everything.